I'm very happy about it. I really am.
said I want to speak with.
I think my term is off.
That's how bad I am.
Should I be offended? No.
I've always wondered, you think, how am I gonna go?
Something I've long been interested in and looking forward to working, so thank you very much.
Beth Pelores, I'm a citizen member. I've been on the committee for several years. I have a history of working in transportation policy and currently work in a environmental and government law support area in a law firm.
Bill? I'm Bill Selbig. I live on Joyce Road. It's, you may or may not know it, but it's a little cul-de-sac off of Winnequa Trail. Been a citizen member here for almost 2 years, I think. I work for the U.S. Geological Survey. I specialize in urban stormwater management issues.
Tim Torino. I live on the north end of Winnequa. We're on our third house in Monona. Came into the committee. See, I've been here for like 24, 25 years. Shortly after the playground build, a lot of you were familiar faces with all of that. I guess my addition to the committee is if anybody has sciatica, I can help you with that. So, long meeting.
I'm Leslie Bussey and I live right down here on Maywood Road, within a block. I guess I've been on this committee somewhere between 20 and 30 years. I took a short stint off, but then came back. My background, I'm a civil engineer. I'm now retired.
I'm Dave Boyer, a citizen member. I live on Toniawatha. I think I'm in my third year on the committee. And my qualifications would be I'm a mechanical engineer, and my wife and I owned a manufacturing company where we built a number of buildings and worked with heavy equipment in Madison.
I'm Tim Stenzel, a citizen member as well. I've been on the committee for about a year and a half, I believe. And I'm a landscape architect with a residential design build firm.
Awesome, thank you. Always helps, I think, new members to just kind of put
I'm
a face
very
with the name.
appreciative, thank you
Yeah.
very much. Yeah.
And then when there are certain things that pop up on an agenda, it's like, hang on, can't you tell us something about this? And so,
Do the members in the room know who these two gentlemen are?
yeah, sorry.
I'm Dan Stefani, Director of Public Works, been with the city now for just over 14 years.
I'm Brad Bruin, I'm the Public Works Project Manager, and I do our GIS data analysis for the city. I've been here for 10, 12.
Brad started as an intern and slowly worked his way up through the ranks, and one of our co-department heads with Jeff Johnson, who's our deputy director. So yeah, Brad wears many hats here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you do a lot more
He's
than
our-
GIS.
He does,
He's
yeah, I
our
know.
certified stormwater and erosion control in-house expert, GIS. He's on-site construction management. He assists with budget preparation, so he's got his fingers in everything. So.
All right, and so that's roll call. And item 3 is approval of minutes from April 2nd, 2025 meeting. Motion,
Move approval.
a second.
Second.
All right, any corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item 4 is appearances, and I already gave the spiel on appearances. I'll try to go in the order in which I received them, but it'll probably get mixed up.
You, Ms. Markle first.
What's that?
Okay, go.
So the first item or the first speaker is Kim Miller, and she's at 4602 Waterman Way and wants to speak regarding well number 1/4.
We moved to Waterman Way in 2012. We've been living here since 1997. And knowing that we had that we were living in a home on a waterway. Currently, we have 2 sump pumps. One runs every 90 seconds. The other one runs every 4 minutes. And that was measured today. Sometimes it runs more than that. This frequency has increased over the years. When we first moved in, we didn't notice it as much. We've got a big pool of water in the backyard. Last year, the sanitary station was built in our backyard. And, we dealt with construction every day for over a year. And now the relocation of the well in front of our house. And I can handle change and give up the comforts and aesthetics if it's done with a purpose. For making our lives better, better for our neighborhood, for the environment, or even providing efficiency. What we know is this has been planned to make room for a city center. I voted for the last referendum. I believe in it. I will not support another one. This plan throws our residents of our neighborhood, and it's not just our block. It goes beyond our block, across the street behind us. And all the people that use the park, which is a green space. It throws our residents into geological and environmental chaos because of what I've heard and the people who talk to that. I'm just saying there's gotta be a better place for this.
Next is Tom. Yeah, and I'll make mine 30 seconds. You can,
I need addresses and names.
sure, I'm same address,
Okay.
4602
I'm
Waterman
gonna give
Way.
you these sheets
Okay.
too. And they'll stay in order.
All right.
So I'll make mine 30 seconds. And in terms of where I live, if you're going to a Brewers game, I think you would consider our house box seats in terms of this proposed project. We're directly across. The only people that would be closer proximity are the ones that just built probably a $600,000 house within the Park of Waterman Way. This is the first time I've been very actively involved in Monona. It's the first time I sat in this chair. I was on the Park and Rec sitting where Teresa is most times. For a number of years, I was on the MG Advisory Committee MG 21 when they first started. And I'm currently started my own Special Olympics team that works in court. We work very closely with Monona Groves, Special Olympics teams. So I'm an active guy. And I guess one thing I would say, I was mostly concerned how I learned about this, because I'm a pretty well-read guy. I don't necessarily read Public Works every month. I don't want to offend you with that, but I didn't attend to that. I'm certainly interested in that and the park end of this as a long-term Parks member, Parks Department. And I was going to say about that. I think that's about it. And my interest, is also allowing time. We have people interested in this, that we've been talking to each other, that have much more of an engineering background than I do. I was a school social worker for 36 years. So, and thanks for letting me speak. I've heard many people speak in the Parks and Rec thing, from like one person wondering where the bench was. They left to the pickleball. And we had about 40 people at it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I knew that one.
So most of you are aware of that.
Yes. It's a
Thanks.
well-viewed item, thank you. And Brenda, next.
My name is Brenda Simonis. I'm at 4600 Waterman Way, and I'm just registering against well for Waterman Way.
All right, and then we have Greg, same address.
So my wife and I, we've lived at this residence, 4600 Waterman Way, for a little over 22 years. One of the reasons why we purchased it was that, at least as far as I knew, the park across the street had a spring in it, a natural spring. And from my understanding, you can't build anything in a natural spring. So I was really shocked when I came to find out that there was a potential well plan there. Not only from a visual standpoint as we look out across the house, but from the environmental aspect of what that could do to everything, or the natural springs. And from what I've learned, there's more than one in there. There's potential for 3 of them. So we're speaking out against having the well put there. A couple pieces that surprised me too was not hearing anything about this from the city. Nothing, there was no information shared with the residents in that area that I'm aware of anyways, not that we've seen. And some of the documentation that we've gotten, one of the words says this new well will be in a new parcel. And like, that's pretty strong verbiage. We're planning something. So that really shocked me. The other part is, by my understanding, is the reason why they're looking to put this well there is that the renovation of the new city hall, where the existing well is, won't work. I'm curious to see where those plans are. I've never seen or heard anything about the new city building. And again, through some of the verbiage, it talks about construction. We're planning at 25 and construction at 26. That's a year away. So I'd really like to see those plans. My background, I'm a landscape architect also for the Bruce Company, and we do a lot of assessments, looking at a property and talking about different options and ideas and how we can make something work if there is a better solution, and multiple ways that we look at those things. So I'd be really curious to see the set of plans and then look at options and how we might be able to make it work with the existing well so we don't have to build a new one anywhere.
Next is James, 605 West.
Yeah, I'm James Lovett over the 605 West D. I will concur with everything these people say, especially Greg here. I am kind of dumbfounded, and I believe all of us have just heard about this in the last few days. It seems like a really lack of transparency for an issue that is this big. And the only thing I have to say is I'm sure this is going to be discussed a while here, and it's going to go, to my knowledge, this is not a done deal. Does it have to be approved by the city council or not?
I could briefly share where things are at in a process. Right now, it's underneath there was a contract in place for items to help secure or reapply for a permit that was from 2001.
I don't really need all the dates. It's a simple question.
Yeah, what I mean is this was an application to have an approval or extension of that approval from the DNR that already existed. And that's all the further this has gone. That action has been put on pause in the meantime.
So it sounds like we're gonna do construction in 26. You're not even close to
No.
this.
Sir,
Unless you-
sir,
unless
we
you
can't
can
have
do-
dialogue with you right now.
Yeah, we can't.
This is not on the agenda, so we can only
Okay,
hear
I'm
your
sorry.
comments. We can't
Okay,
do
thank you.
Q&A.
But I think it's fair to say, like, the things that you're thinking of timeline are probably not, they're not in stone and they're not in action.
I'll just say for the record, I'm against the whole idea of putting a wall, which I think is probably the worst place you could pick in the notes, so
For,
I will be quiet, thank you so
no,
much.
you don't need to be quiet. And
It's fine, thank you so much.
Hi, I live at 612 Clear Spring Court. I've lived there for about 30 years, and I definitely oppose the well. And I feel very uncomfortable and disappointed that this was not brought to our attention for something that is very, very big. Very disappointed. That's all.
Taya,
You said it right.
all right.
Um,
I looked twice.
So my name's Tia Boxstriper, and I live at 614 Clear Spring Court next to Ann. And I would just say something briefly, and that is that we bought the house there in 22, so we have not been there very long. But we paid a lot of money to live there. And we'll be, and I'm so, from just what everybody else has said, I'm a little concerned at like how this is gonna affect property values and long-term everything, and money. But also, my husband who's not here, he works as an environmental consultant. He does a lot of this kind of work, and he reviewed the well report that we had, and his biggest question, he said, is that there was an alternative site mentioned Onderdonk, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Estates, and he said his biggest question was, why is it not being considered for this project? Because he said it's listed with no disadvantages in the report. And he said the report also doesn't evaluate the current well location at City Hall as an alternative and does not evaluate the advantages and disadvantages of the proposed Waterman Way location. So that was the biggest thing, is just like, it just seems like there's been some things that have moved forward, like, you know, normally you do testing and different things, and that hasn't been done, and I would think you want to do that. But anyway, that's what I'll say, but in general, I'm against it.
Awesome. Thank you. Andrew Albert.
Hi, my name's Andrew Halberg. I live at 610 Clear Spring Court. I think I know about half of you. Good to see you again, and nice to meet those of you that I haven't. I've resided there since 1994. We built our home on that corner. The proposed well number 4 will be directly across the street from us. 2 weeks ago yesterday, Veerbicker had a surveyor out on our property digging up irons and surveying our property without notice or permission. I was rather surprised by that. I'm in the industry. I've owned a construction company. You've probably seen us around Monona because we've been doing it here for 50 years. My wife and I volunteer, we contribute, we donate, we are engaged, we promote, we do everything in our power to make Monona the #1 place in this county. I sincerely believe that, and so this feels a little personal and difficult to chew down. I had to call Darren Pope to find out about this. I knew he ran Veerbecker and was the liaison to the city, and I know Darren. And I said, why are you guys surveying my property and my neighbor's property? And he said, well, that's for the well number 4. And I thought, what is well number 4? No one has reached out to us. There's been no engagement with this neighborhood and our community that surrounds Waterman Way Park. So we've had to educate ourselves really quickly. We're not here to say that a well shouldn't be drilled in the city of Monona. What we do know is well number 1 is not failing. There's life in it. And that stated purpose for movement of number 1 is to make way for the new public safety building. We've been supporters of police, fire, EMS, and city governance. I serve on committees, I have for decades. And we'll help find a way to make this work. I believe strongly that Waterman Way Park is not the right location for well number 4. What I haven't discovered is the origins of this dialogue. Back in 2000, someone from the city of Monona decided that this was the right place to put a well. I saw GSW on the bottom of one document I analyzed. I spent the entire weekend reading documents. We got a stack this thick that we acquired from the DNR because we needed to educate ourselves. We didn't have information from our city, so we went out and reached out to find that information. I think perhaps Gary Weinert, who was the assistant director of public works, similar to Mr. Stefani's, thought it was a good place to put it, and an application was filed with the DNR back then. I can't see where alternatives were considered. I think a mistaken premise was made that the shallowness of depth to water table and the location of the springs in Waterman and Clear Spring area would be a positive thing for a well. But in fact, it's quite counterintuitive. It's not a good thing for a well. It provides 4.5 feet of soil between the surface of the ground and the surface of the water elevation. That's what it is to water in Waterman Park in the sampling wells, 4 feet 6 inches from surface to water. Contaminants get to that water table, they run straight down to the well point. It just has to go down, that's all it has to do. So we're here to introduce ourselves, to educate ourselves, to ask you earnestly, abandon the process of siting a well in Waterman Park, and we'll assist you in finding a better location in a timely fashion. I don't believe that disrupting an entire neighborhood is a great way to embark on a capital campaign to support building a new facility here. You know, messing up one neighborhood to make this better. And the other thing I'll say is that there is the opportunity underneath Act 10. I found that in one of the documents from DNR. You can move it 75 feet or less and not have to go through any of this permitting process as long as it doesn't go deeper. Now, if you want it deeper because 300 is not sufficient any longer, because that, number one, is the 300-foot deep well, that would kick it back in. But we could avoid a lot of this chaos by moving that thing 75 feet west, get it out of the way of the fire station, and let's just all get on with it and settle it down.
Next, we have Sandra.
Yeah, so I agree with everyone here, obviously. I'm Sandra Hamburg. I live at 610 Clear Spring Court with this guy. So our kitchen counter, our kitchen table, and our dining room table are filled with all kinds of documents, sticky notes, maps, and everything. So we've been going through this with a fine-tooth comb so that we would understand this process and what was going on and get down to the truth. And everything that we have gone through, Waterman Way is a really, really poor choice. It couldn't get much worse than that. For the same reasons that Andrew has just said, not to mention parkland, once it's gone, it's gone. Green space, we all need green space. We've got buildings and concrete and everything going up everywhere. We just want a little bit of peace, a little bit of room to breathe. There's a book club that meets there. There's kids that play there. You know, they throw a ball there. It's an overflow for Schluter and for the bait shop, and that's where we all connect to. We'll walk our dogs and we'll connect and say, hey, what's going on? And it's like a meeting place for the whole community. It's not underutilized, and it doesn't take much work to keep it up. So another building is more work and you know, more services that they have to do. We'd like to leave Waterman Way just as it is, just green space. We don't need anything else.
Okay, next is David and
Signe.
Thompson.
I'll just say a couple of words, but we live at 611 West Dean, corner Dean and Clear Spring. So we're right next to the Humbers. We've lived there since 1981. I'm extremely disappointed that we were not informed that any of this was going on. It just boggles my mind that the people that are directly affected were not informed that this was happening. I concur with basically with everybody here. There's a lot of questions. Number one would be the cost of the well itself. Two, the reason that they're considering it is to add more cost by building a new city hall or an addition. That concerns me. Environmental impact concerns me. So, and the lack of investigating alternative sites concerns me. So that's where I'm at. I am opposed, obviously, strongly opposed.
I'm passing.
All right, we'll put you down registered.
That's right, I am opposed.
All right. Yes, registered as opposed, yes. I've already forgotten.
Constantine.
Constantine,
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I live at 4604 Waterman Way, and I just echo everything that has been said by everybody present here today. I was shocked and surprised that we were not notified of a project of this magnitude happening within literally feet from our homes. Homes that have increased in value, people have put on additions, many improvements in the homes. There's the fine couple that isn't here tonight, because this has all been, we haven't been notified, and it's all short notice, just built a brand new home, like $600,000 or $700,000 home. This well will literally be in the front yard. There's no road in between, nothing. Moreover, this location does not even meet the specifications for setbacks for a 100 by 100 foot well location. It does not meet it. And there are many things about this application that seems like this has been shoehorned and squeezed to make it happen, which is hugely disappointing. I work as a professional geologist for most of my career. I've worked in regulatory work before, I still do. And this kind of proposal with no formal knowledge to citizens just is not something that's commonplace. I'll just say, and I've had very little time to look at this because we didn't know. As Andrew and Sandy said, I was home when this gentleman from Veerbrucker was literally trespassing on my property. No knock on the door, no doorbell, nothing. He's on the side of my house, the front of my house, walking away. I mean, that's wholly inappropriate. As somebody who's worked in environmental work for 30 years, I would never approach a private residence and not ring their doorbell to say what's going on. Wholly inappropriate. I would like just a couple minutes. I would just like to say, I looked at the report, and I will just say there's several contaminant sources there. There's inaccuracies in this report. There's a leaking underground storage tank, which they nullify, which they cannot do in the report. That's within 600 feet of the well. There is a solid waste generator within 600 feet of the well location. Again, they nullify it, say it's conditionally waived. That's not allowable. You can look at NR 811. There's no conditional waiver. You either generate solid waste or you don't. And then lastly, in terms of contamination, there's a huge PCE plume from Flinty Cleaners. That plume exists at a depth of 200 feet below the ground surface in bedrock, same aquifer which this well will be pulling from, less than approximately a quarter of a mile away. There's been no hydrogeologic studies. The code requires this. There's a potential. You need to be doing hydrogeologic studies. And if you're not going to do it, then you need to plan for treatment. If you plan for treatment for impacts of PCE, which is a carcinogen, and I'll note that it doesn't naturally attenuate or biodegrade. It's a very persistent contaminant. I can tell you there's PCE in many municipal wells throughout Dane County. In particular, this 100 by 100 foot location that you don't even meet with this proposal would never be able to fit the type of aeration treatment or granulated activated carbon vessels, which you need several treatment at 1,500 gallons per minute. So I know I'm over and I'll stop now, but I could go on. But I just wanted to point out that this report, from what I've seen in just very little time, has issues, and I'll just stop.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else here to appear on an item that's not on the agenda or who hasn't had an opportunity to speak? Seeing none here and none on Zoom, I'll close the appearance
Brian?
section.
Would you allow, may I ask a question to
The clerk?
you
Sure.
about this?
It's not in the appearance section, you could at the end.
End of the meeting?
Is it an update or a request for a future agenda item?
I just wondered if maybe there might be, I have a question about something I heard, and I thought I would ask you about whether I was understanding it correctly or not.
Is it? Ask the question and I'll tell you.
Brian, we're close to Brian.
I know, that's why I'm teetering.
What I heard was that well number 1 must be moved because of the proposed civic campus building. Is that true?
I don't think we can discuss that piece of it. That's a larger element, and I encourage everybody to stay tuned as additional information will likely be becoming available. And there are documents at different timelines that are gonna say different things. So a document from 2001 might reference certain things as you go along in time. There's gonna be lots of different bits and pieces of information that I think might not be currently accurate.
Okay.
So we can probably do some of that later at a different time. All right, I'll close.
I think I did hear a number of things though that were perhaps misunderstood.
Possibly.
And I would be happy to help anyone through those misunderstandings, although we just cannot do it now.
Correct.
How do we
That's
get
why
this to be an agenda item so that we can actually discuss
A chair puts it on.
request or?
You can absolutely request it. Doesn't mean it will happen, but I'm the person. So email me if you like.
May I ask on the frequency of your meetings?
We meet on a monthly basis. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, so they're all noticed on the website. We have kind of a cadence to our meeting, but it's the first Wednesday of the month is typical. There are a few times that we adjust that, but it's typically the first Wednesday of the month. Part of the responsibility of the chair is to set the agenda. So if there are questions about items that are on the agenda or not on the agenda, I'm the person that we can talk to. And we'll go from there.
Is your email listed on the website?
It is. If you don't hear back, you can always write again. I try to be as responsive as possible, but I am a human.
And is this the right committee for us to continue that?
This is definitely a good starting spot, I would say. I think if you, as a neighborhood group, seems to be somewhat in conversation with one another, I think sometimes it's helpful rather than having 15-ish people all trying to get information. If you narrow that down to maybe 1 or 2, sometimes it helps to streamline things. That way sometimes a list of questions or concerns can then get funneled back, and it can help that back and forth piece, at least in the meantime. Okay. Yeah. You're welcome to stay to hear lots of exciting business, but don't, you won't offend us if you get up and leave, so.
Thank you.
We'll close the appearance section, we have no unfinished business. And Dan is our Pleasant Hill or Panther Trail.
Not on Zoom.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We will move on to 6A, which is a discussion and consideration of an approval of the release of a city utility easement on Southtown Office Park property at 5600 Gishel Drive. You guys will remember, we have talked about this location and easements multiple times, I think 4 other times. This is our 5th time, Doug?
This would be the 5th easement release, yes, that's good.
Yeah, so this is the 5th easement release, so we've talked earlier that some of the timing of these releases have ended up going to council prior to here, which is not our routine. And I assure you that is not the typical way we like to do business, is going to council for approval prior to a committee. However, this is another one of the easements which we've already talked about. And so it was another item that has been approved at a council level pending this meeting. And some of that had to do with closing dates, and I did not want to move this meeting to flip it around. I didn't feel it was sufficient enough. So with that, I'll chalk it up for you, Doug.
Before you do, Brian, I'm sorry, could you just point out the page number that this appears in the packet? The bookmarks are different on the online version.
Page 8 is the drawing.
Thank you.
I don't have page numbers written down, so you're gonna have to scroll.
It's page 8, thank you.
All right, Doug.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time. As mentioned, this is a request for one additional utility easement to be released. This is a public utility easement over at the near the WPS site, and this would be associated with the future Topgolf redevelopment. This request coming forward is a 10-foot wide utility easement, actually on the site of the Southtown Office Park, so those sort of 2-story office buildings, and I believe this is associated with the water utility that is being removed, scheduled to be removed as part of this. Effectively, this is a cleanup, just like the other 4 utility easements that came through previously. They came through in March of this year. This should have been included with that, frankly, and it was an administrative error that it was not. So that's the reason for the sequencing. As mentioned, this is a public utility easement release, so that necessitates Public Works Committee review, as well as City Council. This did receive unanimous approval on Monday night from City Council, pending Public Works Committee review. And so this evening, I'm seeking approval of that release, and certainly happy to answer any questions. The applicant could not join this evening, but I'll field questions as much as I can.
Dan, do you have any additions?
Yeah, Doug, I believe this is the 6-inch fire line with the hydrant.
I believe so, yes.
This will be abandoned during construction, so Public Works is completely supportive of this.
All right. Any questions for Doug or Dan?
I'll move approval or recommendation of the release of the easement.
Awesome. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Enjoy your evening.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Next is 6B, discussion and consideration of a bid award for the 2025 street resurfacing project. And it's on the page after the last item.
And
That didn't help.
Brian, this was also already approved by council? Was it not?
No. This is had it first read at council, has not been
Got
approved
it.
at council.
That's right.
So we're here just to look at it, review it, and a motion for approval. So that way city council knows that it was approved at this level.
So I guess the process, I just, in case everybody doesn't know, if we have a council meeting before a Public Works Committee meeting, oftentimes I do the first reading because the council requires 2 readings. Do the first reading, come to Public Works, get the recommendation, and then they approve at the second reading, so I carry our recommendation forward for the second reading. If we have Public Works before the 2 council meetings, it works out perfect for sequencing. But we're not violating any process this way because it was just an introduction to council. So, in the packet, we do have information for the mill and overlay. Received bids on April 3rd from 2 contractors. Payne and Dolan provided the low bid here, $161,281.90. I included in the packet the bid tab and the maps of the locations that we're doing. they're pretty straightforward. The mill and overlay for South Winnequa is a full depth removal, and we have road bed repair. We are receiving a local road improvement grant to assist with paying for that work. Just a small amount of, I think, just over $32,000. So portion is allocated to the sanitary sewer. That's for just manhole adjustments to meet the new pavement heights. We do have extra milling as needed for potholed areas. And then where the potholed areas are, if needed base repair, we have money allocated for that too. So all in all, compared to past mill and overlay projects, this is probably a smaller project, but pretty straightforward.
You have the capital budget of 310 in the resolution for the council. Are there other expenditures that get us close to the 310, or are we?
Yeah, we have a chip seal project.
Okay.
So when we do chip sealing, mill and overlay, patching throughout the city by the crew, any crack sealing, any infrared heats, all that goes to this capital budget.
I think on the heels of that, Dan, is the 161 proportionate to what you were expecting it to be.
The prices are better than what I anticipate. I always add a couple percent higher, just so I don't overspend or I don't plan too many roads. So that's why you see an itemized bid tab. So if we have prices that come over, we have the ability to cut a road to meet our budget. So.
But it allows us then to maybe take on a little bit more, if there's some more money available, take on a little bit more patching.
Yes.
From our crew.
Yep.
If one of those items comes in.
The materials, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Any other questions from the group?
I'll recommend approval.
I'll second.
Second.
I'll second.
Any other questions, concerns?
Just a general question. How long ago were these calculations made, and is there any concern that they might be rising?
No, this is a bid. April 3rd is when we received them, so they're good
That's
for
not
at least 60 days, so
Okay.
we're solid. They can't raise them. Dan, did I hear you say it's a full depth? On South Winnequa from Bridge Road to Bartles, that one's full depth removal.
So full depth is only 1.5 inches?
No, full depth is the full thickness of the asphalt.
Okay.
Which is?
3 to 4 inches.
Oh.
Depending on the road.
Bill, are you seeing something that's showing something different?
I was, to me, a mill and overlay, I see 1.5 inches, that makes sense.
Okay.
Usually it's, it's first couple inches, but when I heard you say full depth, I thought that meant you're getting rid of all of the asphalt. In the bid manual, it's written full depth for South Winnequa, that section, because we're getting grant funding for it. Maximize the grant, in other words, so.
Awesome. All right. Hearing no other questions, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item is passed. We're on to 6C, discussion and consideration of a staff recommendation for no parking on the crest of Panther Trail Hill at Branch Place. And is this no parking on both sides or one side?
He wants us to pick one.
Yes.
That's why I asked that question to start with.
Okay. So this, we learned of this from a concerned resident on the street on Panther Trail Hill. And I did forward it to PD, got their opinion. And the picture was sent to us by the resident. And since I received this, I've driven this road a few times myself coming into work. And every morning I've driven it, I see this scenario. Looking at it from above, on Google Maps or on our GIS layer, if you go westbound, there's 2 to 3 properties. Brett, is there a way that you can bring it up Google Maps while still maintaining Zoom? Yep. Okay. There's 2 to 3 properties going westbound. And if you go eastbound, because the lot sizes are narrower, I think more properties are impacted. So I guess as public works staff, we support
eliminating parking on one side of the street. We'd have to figure out exactly the amount of length on each side of the crest of the hill. But I'm looking for feedback from this committee as it would be at Brandt.
Yeah, because the crest of the hill is like the second house.
Yeah.
The crest of the hill is right
This
here.
direction, yeah. Right about there is where the crest is.
Yeah. And so this is the two properties you're talking about, like on the one side where there's like 4 or 5 on the other side.
Yeah.
Those two.
Yeah.
Am I looking in the right direction?
You're at the crest of the hill.
But we would be traveling away from Monona Drive right now.
Yes, we're driving westbound here.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
So I don't know if you want to go back to just above so you can see the houses we're at.
Are you looking for no parking on the entire length of?
So what?
Just
if
around the
we did
crest of the hill.
westbound,
We have to define that.
if we did westbound, it would probably be from this driveway to the corner and from the corner probably to about here. And obviously then if you go eastbound, there'd be no parking in front of all these parcels.
And-
At least for these properties, they can park on the side here.
Is the problem that as you go up the hill, you cannot see oncoming cars?
Yeah, correct.
And so if you swerve across the center line to avoid a parked car,
Yeah.
you hit the oncoming car.
And there's cars on both sides.
Both sides, there's not 2 lanes to pass.
Okay.
So that's, if, coming out of this meeting tonight, if we come up with a side to go with no parking, I would draft an ordinance document for presentation at council. But prior to that, we'd have to notify the residents so they're aware of what we're doing.
Dan, is there a particular benefit to one side or the other? Is it really just completely equal?
I'm thinking that there's fewer homes impacted if we put it on the westbound lane. And if we put it eastbound, where we have more houses, I think,
this is the more dangerous
yeah.
approach.
When you're traveling away from Monona Drive heading westbound?
So I would start it right here by the hydrant to carry it over the hill
So no-
if we did westbound.
Yeah.
Does one side or the other, using the two lines you drew, does one side lose more parking places than the other?
There's more space to park going westbound because there's fewer driveways.
Oh.
Right.
But on eastbound, there's more homes that would then have to park across the street.
Right.
But there's more space to park.
Yeah.
How many cars are typically parked on the street? What amount of space do we need to find?
It's pretty equal on both sides.
But they can all fit on one side. It's not like we've got both sides filled right now.
They would have a better time fitting going westbound because there's fewer driveways.
There definitely is some impact in the sense of some of the on both sides, but definitely homes on the south side of the street have stubbier driveways. But
So they might need the street parking is what you're saying?
well, but parking's utilized on both sides.
Yeah.
I just think those
I'd love to hear from others, but I
Yeah.
have a hesitancy to pick a side rather
Yeah.
than
I know.
was there a recommendation from PD on the side?
No. They just thought that one side needed to be no park to avoid any potential.
Has there been any issues, any accidents?
That's why the resident contacted us. There was like a side swipe of one of the vehicles. The PD wasn't able to produce a history of any other crashes.
And how wide is the street?
I believe that's the 28-foot asphalt to asphalt, 32 curb to curb, or standard city street.
Okay, standard.
When you travel from Manila Drive up that hill,
in the early evening, it is extremely difficult to see, even if there wasn't a car parked there, because of just where the sun sets.
Oh, yeah.
It's
A lot of
pretty
those
dangerous.
streets are.
Yeah.
Did you say that the no parking would only be for certain length? I mean, you're not gonna take the whole.
We would have to determine that, but when you actually drive it and you notice that fire hydrant, you're thinking, it really needs to begin here. So I've driven it a few times now, and I'm trying to figure out where's a good spot to start the no parking.
So is this picture looking east then, the photo in the packet?
We're looking east now. Oh,
Yes, this here is looking east, I believe.
yeah.
So
it
there's
is.
a fire hydrant down
Yes.
further too, so you could
On the
say
other side.
fire hydrant to fire hydrant, which are only on the north side. You can't park in front of those anyways, right? So
Yeah,
in that sense, you don't lose parking that way, I guess, on the north side.
but I guess, do you go to the next driveway up? Do you start it right there at that driveway? I mean, where's the reaction?
But the fire hydrants are only on the north side, right?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can't park in front of them anyway.
Brad, can you go over the hill and show the next hydrant? Right there is the next one.
Yeah.
So it's at the
It's on the
corner.
corner.
Yeah.
So you could use that as a guide because those are almost at the crest of the hill, it seems like, on each side.
Brandon, if you go back down towards Winnequa, I'm wondering if that is not a large enough stretch. Like starting at that first hydrant, I wonder if it needs to start all the way back at
Yeah,
Gosher.
yeah.
That whole side?
So 3 fire hydrants, well, that might even be too far
That's,
now.
Yeah.
that's a lot, yeah.
I'm thinking that driveway right there, that's
The
my
fire
gut.
hydrant right there, yeah.
If we don't want to decide tonight, if you all want to drive it
Yeah.
and kind of get a feeling for it.
Is there given we had some appearances tonight, if we had an idea of parking on, let's say we came out of tonight saying, hey, we're considering that hydrant to the next hydrant on the north side of the street.
Mail both sides and see what. their
Mail
opinion
both
is.
sides and just say, hey, we're trying to gather feedback.
Thank you.
There's concerns about vision and, we can put the wording together that describes what it is and just ask for their feedback. Not
Yeah.
that we're gonna just do it by, there was 3 to 4 votes, but it at least gives us some information of what that little group might want.
So you could table it until June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can send letters and get some feedback.
Yeah.
And you all can get a chance to drive it and see if you can experience it yourself.
I like that idea a lot. I think you need to decide whether or not to communicate that it's highly recommended that we do eliminate it on one side.
Yeah.
In other words, are they getting a vote on any elimination
Yes.
or which side?
Or just to help us understand the situation better. You know, they may have seen a lot more near misses and side swipes than we're aware of,
I guess if we send them a letter, I would ask for their feedback on what side they prefer to be signed out parking.
right?
Was the person who submitted this photo a resident of that neighborhood?
Yeah, I think he lives on the west side of the crest of the hill.
Yeah, I think they're the new family right on the other side.
Yeah, he's probably the guy that lives right about here.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a resident on the street, so.
All right, so I'm hearing a possible table of the item. And we'll gather some feedback and we'll bring it back.
Can I make that motion?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Well, now there's no more discussion. All those in favor of the table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We'll come back.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next item is 6D, which is discussion and consideration of the stormwater quality plan update. And Brad, I assume you're walking us through all of this.
Yeah, sorry, Dan feels like he wants to.
No.
That's why we paid you the money.
Yeah, it's been talking enough.
It's your show, your turn.
All right, so just as a point of history for everybody in the room, just a reminder of where we've been and how we got to this point. Last year, actually in 2023, we applied for a WDNR UNPS planning grant to help support this effort of redoing our stormwater master plan, which in an official capacity, it had not actually been comprehensively reviewed reviewed or updated since 2014 when it was approved last. So we've done bits and pieces since then, which I'll touch on, and we'll go from there. So as a point of brief history, I already said that 2014 was when we produced and approved our first comprehensive stormwater management plan in the city of Monona. It was a WDNR regulated effort. In between 2013 and 2016, we did many stormwater improvements in the city, infrastructural improvements. We installed 6 underground stormwater treatment devices, 2 in Winnequa Park, 1 in Grand Park, 1 in Bartle Street, 1 in Cove Channel or Cove Circle, and the Fireman's Park improvements also has it's an above ground detention facility over there as well. In 2015 and 2016, we updated our SLAM models, mostly because we were planning a project to do an underground or 2 devices in Schluter Park. And so we did that in 2016. We put 1 in Schluter Park, 1 in Winnequa Road, just outside of Schluter Park. In 2018, we performed a REACH 64 study and update, and Strand produced the technical memo that we sent to the DNR to update our SLAM models, which helped us save a lot of money for our adaptive management fees that we pay annually. And out of that, they set up a priority scenario for the city to look at meeting its requirements for phosphorus and suspended solid reductions in REACH 64. Because according to SLAM models, up to that point, we had already reached our requirements in REACH 66 and 65. As you know, we only have the 3 reaches in the city, so the southern and easternmost reaches, 66 and 65, we were good on. 64 is basically the entire northern half of the municipality. We were not even close. At this point, we did the, at that point, we started planning for the Stonebridge Park underground treatment facility. There were really 3 options at that time. There was Stonebridge Park, there was Maywood Park, or Kelly Place right away, or it could have been just one large project. And there was the expansion of Winnequa Lagoon. So the city chose the smaller of the 3 in terms of cost and scope to kind of do an improvement, but also wait for the DNR to do their MS4 permit updates, which came in 2023. So Stonebridge Park was installed in 2021. Then we went back to the drawing board. We got the grant. We did the plan update. That is finishing now. We did our SLAM updates, but that's already done. We planned for and scoped out and then bid the Kelly Place stormwater improvement project, which is underway. So that's kind of where we're at. In terms of the plan update, the effort included combining old documentation, all of the things that we've already talked about, SLAM modeling, the 2014 plan set, the 2018 study, and then any other more modern stuff that we've done, including the in-house effort to update our procedural manual and to define a stormwater pollution prevention plan for the Public Works Garage, which came from a requirement from a DNR audit of our entire program. So at that point, we've combined all this. We've built new scenarios for reaching adaptive management requirements for the city. We've created updated maps, and we've kind of brought everything comprehensively into one document. Now everything's in one spot. If somebody was to come and replace somebody in the Public Works Department or otherwise at the city, there's only one spot to go, and you can find everything you need for the stormwater, essentially for most of the department outside of planning, utility fees and budgeting and stuff like that. So kind of where we're at right now in terms of the SLAM model updates, which is probably the most important part of the plan for the most part. REACH 64 is now meeting phosphorus requirements with the Kelly Place project. So once installed, Reach 64, we will meet total phosphorus reduction requirements. That's the adaptive management requirements, which is really the only feasible requirements to meet for the city. Otherwise, the city's doing millions and millions of dollars in infrastructural improvements. I don't even think it's probably feasible for us to meet the other requirements from the DNR. We are not meeting TSS reductions in Reach 64 at this point, which means that unless something changes in the way that the DNR approves SLAM models, the way that you do stormwater modeling, we'll have to do another project at some point in Reach 64. Reach 65, there were some adjustments. The model was inaccurate. And by doing those adjustments, we still meet phosphorus reductions in Reach 65. However, we do not meet suspended solid reductions in Reach 65. So, for instance, the Gestalt Stormwater Basin project, which has been introduced to this body, doing that project we would then meet our requirements in Reach 65. So at some point, it's a high priority project for stormwater improvements. And it's a 2 to 3-fold project. It's a spillway that we'll be improving. It's a pollution prevention device, and it's a flood prevention device. So that project being all said and done, I would say that's the only high priority project for Reach 65. Reach 66 meets all adaptive management requirements, TSS and phosphorus. So there is no need to perform infrastructural improvements in Reach 66. That being said then, so Reach 64, there are some scenarios put forward in the plan documents. Probably the 2 highest priority projects that we'd be looking at over the next permit term, which is the next 5 years, would be an underground device of some sort in Arrowhead Park, or an underground device of some sort in Frostwoods Beach Park. Either of them will likely get us very, very close, if not over our requirements for Reach 64. So hopefully just one more project in Reach 64, and then the city's at its requirements for adaptive management. All being said, they could move the goalposts if they really wanted to, or if they had to from the DNR. So Reach 65, then of course we just talked about the Gestalt Basin at some point, improving that, making it maybe a wet detention basin of some sort, or expanding its capacity. And besides that, let's say things change. The large projects in Reach 64 that would be the next priority would be expanding Winnequa Park Lagoon. Basically digging up existing floodplain and expanding the actual surface water square acreage of that lagoon. Square acreage is already square. Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. I don't want to go through the whole document. It's all there. I'm always available, but if you have questions now that you'd like clarification on, please feel free to ask me, whatever comes to mind.
Well, I made the mistake of starting that yesterday. It's very comprehensive what I've gone through, and this, it's nice to see it all in one place.
Yeah.
So.
Are you asking anything of the committee? We don't approve this, do we? You're just wanting us to be informed that you have
This one needs to be approved for council because we're getting grant funding.
Yeah.
So you're approving to accept.
Because we got grant funding for the document for Veerbecker to help.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I see.
So the DNR wants to see that it was brought forward, it was presented publicly, which this is a public forum, so we've done that. And then the council has accepted it in some manner,
So our move would be to recommend council's acceptance.
Recommend acceptance to council and they would approve.
Yes.
The update. Right, I have a few questions if you might. I agree, this is a really great document and it's comprehensive, it really outlines it nicely. And I had to study this thing for a little bit and because it's a little confusing to me, and I don't know if others actually looked at the details, the Yahara winds requirement it's not a requirement. It's part of the adaptive management approach. And that 40%, 27% comes from NR 151, so that's a state code. But what I'm concerned about is, or curious of what the department's view is there's still a TMDL gap. So you're meeting the 40 and 27, but you're not meeting the TMDL. So either you're paying your hard winds to make up that difference, or you have plans to do something additional. Because,
Right.
I mean, you're close, it's still what, 16 to 20% away. But the 40-27 is just the very baseline. That's the very basic minimum requirement. That also assumes that you're going to be doing all of these capital improvement projects, which I think are outlined here in 2.8. And so I don't know. Maybe can you speak to that a little bit as to how long do we have here to achieve what's outlined here in terms of the vision to get to the RONs?
So
I'll say, but then ultimately, what's the plan to get to the TMDL goal?
So there is no plan to get to the TMDL goal, I'll be brutally honest with that. And given the fact that we're landlocked in the city of Monona, the only way outside of serious dollars invested in infrastructure is trading. Phosphorus trading. I don't even know if you can trade for TSS yet, but there's not a lot of other ways to do it.
Yeah, so buying in to the watershed so that farmers can do things and I get that. How much is that bill?
It'll be reduced to the bare minimum once we meet our adaptive management minimums. Right now, I think it's like 16 or 17,000 a year.
To buy,
It's
like
this
trade phosphorus, whatever you want to call them, like coupons, yeah. It's kind of like a solar rec that you're buying.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. But we'll be reducing it.
Yeah. This year's allocation is around 24,000. We were at 19,000 because we had a credit built out the past few years. So our cost to participate in adaptive manage right now is just under 25 grand.
Annual.
Yeah.
So compared to the cost for borrowing, for instance, $5 million to do a major infrastructural project, it's peanuts compared to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kelly Place gets you halfway to that $5 million mark alone, so it's expensive, I get that. What is the timeline, so these proposed improvement projects, maybe it's in here somewhere and I just missed it, but we have 10 years to complete this, is this all?
The adaptive management contract, the agreement that the city has with Yahara Winds to participate, it doesn't have a fixed date in it. That mimics the DNR's permit requirement of doing infrastructural progress once every permit term, essentially. So we're trying to do a project, infrastructural investment, like once every 5 years, basically. So we've been doing that. We've been going beyond that in most cases, especially at the beginning. But at the beginning, the projects were smaller and they've significantly increased in scope since then to where we are at with the Kelly Place project.
Could I, sorry, Brad, can you, just for my own understanding. So I'm thinking kind of like solar RECs, so you can buy solar RECs to sort of, if you can't produce your own, enough solar energy, is that sort of what's going on here with phosphorus? If we cannot meet our own phosphorus goals, we can sort of buy. It's not a REC, but you know what I mean? It's like a credit that you get, and that's what this is.
Yeah, by the logic of it, yes, that is essentially what you could do. It is an option.
Credit, yeah.
We wouldn't do that unless we couldn't meet our adaptive management goals.
But we are gonna meet the adaptive management goals.
We will be meeting it,
And
yes.
how do you know for sure? I mean, what sort of tests prove that we're meeting those goals?
The models that we run are approved models by the way that they're done by the DNR. And if the DNR approves it, then it's written in stone, so to speak.
So when you say a model, you mean a projection?
It's a stormwater model, just like you do models for structures and
Yeah.
testing load bearing and stuff like that, so.
Is there any sort of like later testing, like that you go back and like not retro commission, but you know what I mean? Like you go back and make sure it is doing what what it is supposed to do?
Not required, no.
No, the model's called WinSlam. It's a source loading and management model.
Okay.
And it's accepted by the state DNR as if you run this model, the results are accepted, or prescribed the benefit or whatever reductions the model assigns.
Yeah.
There's a lot of science that goes into that model. So all of the calibrations that go on are a lot of what we do out of our office go into that model,
So it's
which is why
reliable.
they kind of accept it. And Wisconsin's unique that way. It's, other states don't do it that way.
So it's trusted, it's reliable, it's you can.
And
Okay.
there are times that there's adjustments which happened in the previous scenario where there were new elements in the modeling, and we had to rerun it.
Yep.
Which changed our outcome because the model's updated.
Which it will be again,
Yep.
FYI.
It's like buying a new software package.
Yeah.
It's always coming up with something new.
So there are new files. The files that are mentioned in this document are out of date, but the DNR has not approved them yet.
Yep.
So that's forthcoming. The other thing is forthcoming is, well, hopefully. You may have noticed that you had more phosphorus reduction in TSS at 64, which is pretty unusual, but that's probably because of the leaf credit.
That is correct.
And looking at some of the maps, I was curious as why some majorly residential areas did not get that leaf credit. I understand why now, because they're being served by another treatment device, which is in the language. But I asked the DNR, can we please get rid of that? Because I think doesn't make sense. And they're open to the idea. So I think potentially in the future we'll get more leaf credit.
Yeah.
For other catchments in the city.
There could be other adjustments too, though, so like street sweeping could get a little less credit than it has been, and stuff like that, yeah.
But the thing that, and again, this is just curious on your opinion, all of these treatment devices are concrete structural underground wet vaults.
Yep.
Why?
Because it provides us the on-surface green space that's usable with a fairly low maintenance facility, all said and done, with a wet pool in it and their size, with the ability to maintain the initial treatment device chambers that kind of pull a lot of the crap off the water, so you're not having to do the major chamber, and just a complete lack of green space. And also standing pools tend to get you the most phosphorus and TSS for your buck.
So I guess maybe that's probably to the heart of my question, is has somebody actually done that analysis saying this is the most efficient for our buck, is going this direction, rather than putting in rain gardens or curb cuts or, grass swales or permeable pavement, other green infrastructure practices, which, I can understand those can be expensive and there's a maintenance.
The maintenance is the major thing, Bill, honestly. We just do not have the staff to be maintaining rain gardens and ponds and stuff like that, yeah.
So as, I have to say as a scientist, the vaults will get you there to the goal. They're not gonna do that much for water quality. They'll remove the solids and the trash. But in terms of like protecting the lake, it's better than nothing for sure, don't get me wrong. But it's probably not the best solution.
So the one thing that we also have to balance, outside of the fact the maintenance and the disappearance of green space, if we did do surface wet ponds, is nobody's gonna want them in their backyard.
And we'd have to buy homes to do it.
Yeah. It takes way more space.
Maybe the front yards though.
Just took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, and so has that ever been discussed? The idea of having an incentive or rebate program for doing homeowner?
Who's gonna manage that?
Well, the homeowners are responsible for that, but you
Well,
could
there's a
potentially get
staff
credit for
component to
it.
that too.
Sorry?
There's a staff component to that too that we just can't meet.
There would be, yeah. Or maybe not, and it could be the city's only involvement is the rebate.
You're talking about curb cut rain gardens?
The kind that you have in your front yard, right?
There's one option, but also just rainfall downspout direct it to something.
How many do you need of those to help meet permit though? I mean, these underground chambers are big bites. If we were to expand Winnequa Park Lagoon, that's a super big bite. How many rain gardens do we need to equal big bites? And I guess that's where I'm coming from a staff standpoint, to monitor and whatever it is you do or you would have to do with this. I mean,
So I think it comes down to the city can control what we can control, and that's the item, the structures that we maintain. And we do a really good job at doing that. My experience with anything privately owned that's a stormwater feature is that people really suck at maintaining them. Businesses especially. And when you do tell them that they need to maintain them,
Especially this.
they either blow you off or they tell you that I'm not responsible for doing that. The person that you contact, this person
They
might
sell
be,
the
or this
house to
person might
someone
be.
else.
And you get 15 calls down the line, and you finally get somebody that's gonna tell you that I didn't know that. And we'll get to it.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, you follow up again and they say, well, yeah, something fell through the cracks. That guy's or that woman or whoever is no longer here anymore.
But it is a really interesting question, like, how many rain gardens will we need? Like, I don't know,
You could do that analysis.
hundreds or dozens? I don't know, what,
I'm bringing it up as,
Yeah.
where it's just discussion.
Yeah.
The real answer is you're never gonna get there by green infrastructure alone. So you do need these big devices.
Yeah.
And wet ponds and things like that. And I totally get why you're going that route. And we don't have the space for giant ponds, so you gotta go underground. But I still think that there's a place for green infrastructure within the city.
Yeah.
And if there are people who are willing to do it, it's a better way to have better water quality than just removing coarse solids and trash from the runoff. And we're preventing piles of sand in an outfall. Nobody wants to see that in the lake. But that quality of water is void of coarse particulates, but not much else. And maybe some of the sediment associated pollutants that come with it, some metals and things like that.
The one thing I have been meaning to ask, and I don't think that we're there yet with modeling, I don't think it's in the SLAM model very accurately, in my opinion. But treatment with alum, things like that, where we can do it, periodically and then suck out the underground detention chambers and remove all of those solids that could otherwise be resuspended. But I don't think that you get a lot of credit with the SLAM models for doing stuff like that. And I don't think the bang for the buck is there.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're right. I don't think it's in law right now, but there is a technical standard coming out.
Yeah.
About alum.
Yep.
Although I've never heard of alum underground.
It would work the same way.
I suppose it would. But you would have to do an active.
Right.
Yeah, rather than passive.
How often do these structures need maintenance? Is this like a monthly thing, a yearly thing?
The bigger structures, the initial chamber that captures a lot of coarse sediment, leaves, trash, stuff like that, they can be maintained on an annual basis, maybe more than annually. The major structure itself, the wet pool every 10 years, something like that.
And are those the giant trucks that suck everything out?
Yeah, you would actually de-water the entire pool and you'd get down there with either a robot or manually and you'd start sucking it out. And haul it off. It's quite a process.
And then is that treated as some sort of hazardous waste or can it just go?
It depends. It's probably a low hazard. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but
It hasn't been done yet.
we haven't had to, no.
is this the city's first underground concrete chamber?
The
Or
Kelly-
We already have one.
Kelly Place would be the second. Stonebridge and Kelly Place are
Stonebridge.
effectively, for the most part, the exact same
Okay.
device.
I remember you said.
Has yearly been maintenance done on Stonebridge yet then?
No, I don't think so. I think it's been inspected.
Yeah, that one too is a 7 to 10 year timeframe for clean out. The smaller ones that we have, the Contact and Suntree.
Yep.
Those are annual. We get those at least once to twice a year to clean them out spring and fall.
Brad, kind of following up on Bill's point of non-concrete, when you talk about the industrial park and that project,
that would fall closer in that category of like, we're not looking at underground basin up there.
No.
Like that's a big project, getting to the point of addressing these pieces, but in a different way. Right?
Yeah,
I have that wrong.
Yeah, it is. It's just that particular facility serves many purposes.
Yeah.
One of them being stormwater treatment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that facility would be a fairly large detention basin compared to pretty much any of the basins that we have in Monona, outside of Winnequa Lagoon.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And where is that in the priority list?
It's in design this year. We were planning, was it construction next year? But
Yeah, I think
that's been bumped back because of the high bid for Kelly Place. So now Gescholt is 2027.
Okay. Brad, can you just give a brief, I don't know if everybody on this group was there for some of the discussion. Can you just describe like a little bit of the location? Because this is the Army Corps of Engineering piece, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like a little bit of the project, just to what everybody's appetite for.
So
the count.
The Gescholt Basin is currently a dry
Do you
detention
want
basin.
to put it, Google Maps back up?
Dry
perhaps?
detention basin.
Yeah, right now it is.
Just to give you an idea where it's at, and for people who might be wondering, this is relevant to this agenda topic, so we're not drifting.
Yes, no, it's
part of.
This is clearly relevant,
Yes.
Alright, so come on, you can do it. I believe in you. There you go. Alright, so you can see the proximity to the conservancy/floodplain.
Hey, can I point something out though?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do y'all think this is like soil and trees and grass and
Looks
whatnot?
like it.
That's the
is it
basin that we need to
really?
clean out.
Yeah,
That's just how full it is.
That's the
that's our current base.
That's our
above
basin.
ground basin.
It's supposed to be like a wet detention. That's just how full it is for decades of. How old is it?
It's
1989.
89, Army Corps of Engineers built the floodplain,
We
these
have
little
a,
gates.
we have a weir right here. So this here through here is the basin that Brad's talking about.
That's going to be cleaned out and modified in 2027.
So this little bar here is a big concrete and steel weir gate. These are levees, actually, berms, flood berms that the Army Corps designed for the city and the city constructed. This is a spill gate, so this is supposed to close fully to not allow industrial spills out into the conservancy. It's also allowed to close fully to not allow floods into the industrial park. So it's like I was saying, it's a twofold thing. Then it also captures anything that's in the industrial park that gets into the storm drain and floods out into this basin, it holds. So for 30 years, this has been in operation and it has filled in significantly over time. There's supposed to be maintenance inspections done here, which the city, I mean, this is buried in years and years of paperwork and multiple people in positions, and it's just not one of those things that is maintained anymore. So the project would be to dredge and reshape this entire basin, fix this weir, talk with the Army Corps of Engineers, ask and make sure that there's no permit requirements or anything else that are special to this project. And then as a point of future sustainability with this particular device, it requires maintenance. And it doesn't serve the greater community, it serves the industrial park, it serves private industry. And because of that, what I had talked with Dan about and what we're hoping to propose in the future is a future drainage district that is accessible to help pay for the continued maintenance and operation of this device. If this device wasn't here, all of these industrial park properties that have redeveloped and drained to this would then no longer be compliant with requirements on private properties for TSS and phosphorus controls. At least peak runoff rate controls, so, reducing flood risk and stuff like that. This literally is being taken, is credited to all of these various facilities.
Brad, if you scan out, how far does that go? Like, is the whole?
Goes out to here and then up
So that
just
whole,
slightly.
that
in
whole
here.
area drains, it's a watershed, it just drains down into that,
Yeah, that's
that
correct.
cleaning, whatever. Wow.
And it's like, to me, when I
That's
always look at
incredible.
this, I'm like, how sensitive is that pond of pulling all of that crap out right next to the wetlands? Like, to me, this is the project.
But doesn't that not prove, but it really strengthens Bill's argument in the power of an above ground system.
Well, the same thing can happen underground, but it happens really well here.
Yeah.
I mean, it can happen, but it feels to me like digging it underground requires a whole layer of unnecessary concrete and, right? It's like underground parking, above ground parking, which is easier.
We put it underground because we don't have land to
Okay,
put it.
yeah, right.
I mean, yeah, the big stormwater ponds,
Yeah.
you get, they're cheap to construct and you get the best
But
bang
they
for
take
your
up
buck,
space.
but they take up space, yeah.
And there's,
So,
And we don't have
there's other-
space in Monona,
there's
we don't
lots
have
of other,
space.
well-documented problems with ponds,
Might
especially
it-
from certain sides of that opinion.
Okay, so can you just like scroll up above the belt line there? So what, to the up the okay, where am I at? So we just Yahara Place, what was it, Brian on council? We just approved a development on the corner. It's further.
It's River Place.
Right, River Place.
Oh. Yeah.
I mean, so as part of that big area, shouldn't Plan Commission also be thinking about putting in these?
Yeah.
They are, it's already
We're
built
meeting our
into all
stormwater,
of the,
our ordinance requirements for stormwater for development is one of the major consideration
Yes.
points under plan commission.
Yeah.
They can't move forward with the project
unless they have
it.
done that.
So our ordinance 216 for stormwater and erosion control and illicit discharges, it spells it all out.
Yeah.
We're actually slightly stricter than the county, very slightly stricter, but that is, one of the reasons is because we're landlocked and
Yeah.
the city's infrastructure is what it is at this point. It's rated for 5 to 10 year storms. If that, in most locations, it's 2 to 5. So that means that a storm that comes every 2 years would fill our underground pipes to capacity. So we have some areas that are trouble areas in the city where we have backups in our storm sewer system. Those can get exacerbated by things like clogs and sediment and leaves and garbage and stuff that hinder stormwater movement. The Kelly Place location is a 60-inch pipe that fills to capacity in a 10-year storm. Not even. It backs up. People complain about geysers coming out of stormwater grates in their backyards along Midmore.
manhole covers fly.
Manhole covers blowing off. Which way, if you've ever lifted one.
Still enough force to blow up. Can you show again where the Kelly Place?
Yeah.
Where it's actually going to be located? Because I was reading this and I truly did underappreciated how big this thing is going to be.
It's 30 feet.
Yeah.
So Kelly Place Stormwater Underground Detention Basin is a concrete basin that would be equivalent to the size of an underground parking structure that stretches from right-of-way line to right-of-way line.
We have 60 feet width there, and from street to street.
It's huge.
It's huge, it's big.
So the other option that the city looked at, and to your point, Bill, we did look at this, and this was done and this body actually did look at it. So there was closed session in this committee to look at possibility of choosing the lesser cost option of any of these 4 homes, which would have been this one, buying this entire property and filling the entire property and this old right of way
Above ground.
with a pond.
Yeah.
And for, I don't know why, but they didn't approve it.
You think it would have been a good idea?
Oh yeah, it would have been great for me. But yeah, so it's just, and that was our best option, right?
Yeah. So I asked this last time, I'll ask it again, because I really am truly curious. These models give you an estimate, or they give you a simulation of what solid loading you're gonna get, but you don't really know. But you must keep records of what you're cleaning out.
Yeah, we do.
So have you ever looked to see, are you close to what the model actually predicted?
It's a good question. I can, if it shows, yeah, I could potentially compare that. It doesn't show, I mean.
Wouldn't you have to know water flow too?
Yeah, it would depend on rain events that year too and stuff like that. But let's say every average year, we go out there and look at what we suck out of one of them.
Yeah,
We could
if you
compare.
have it, it's been in for 10 years, you can.
Yeah, kind of get an idea.
Those records.
Yeah. Take it over 10 years and just divide by 10, see what it is, yeah.
So this is fascinating. So had the city purchased that house, I mean, that would have been more than double the space, right?
Effectively.
It would have, and it probably would have been more than twice as effective in achieving your goals of cleaning.
I mean, I don't have the model, I can't remember what the model said for that. I don't know if we fully modeled it, it was really just a surface, like, oh, it could, given what we know about storm ponds, it could get this much treatment because of its, surface area and depth and whatnot. But we didn't run a full model on it because we didn't want to waste the money knowing that it was very unlikely it was going to happen. It was an option, or the entirety legitimately of Maywood Park was going to be a pond instead of a park.
And would that have eliminated all those cottonwoods?
Yeah.
All those what?
All the cottonwoods would have had to come down and went apart.
And Jake's baseball diamonds and
And the dog runs that everybody
the
uses
dog
back
runs
there.
and the swing sets that flood anyway.
We would have had
Yeah.
to fence it too because we were trying to maximize square area the area over there. And we couldn't get the slope of the pond to a safe slope. So we would have had to fence the whole thing like you do a pool in your backyard.
Should those ponds end? Should be.
What is the plan for the dry basin and the rock gabion on Broadway? That I think it's near the end of its life.
It's on the list.
Is it just gonna be scraped out?
It'll be
Same thing,
reconstructed.
It'll be reconstructed, I mean, it's still gonna be there.
Yeah.
It's just, we're gonna do something, the plan is to do something different and better with it. It's next on our list. We have a few of these that are next on our list, but like Brad mentioned, possibly under the parking area at Frostwoods Beach Park is a location. Repairing or remodeling the one off Broadway. And probably the final piece is Winnequa Park.
Arrowhead Park too.
Arrowhead Park,
Found
yeah.
that as an option as well.
But seems like these stormwater projects are never ending. About every 3 years, we're coming back with a big project to help meet our permits. Just thinking on the top of my head, we probably got about 8 or 9 of these lined up, just waiting to get on the capital project list. So hopefully Dane County keeps the grant funds flowing.
Does the Monona City own the one on Lake Edge? That's also.
Yeah, that's ours. Madison, it's like a joint, Monona's responsible for maintaining it. But in essence, it treats all of Madison stormwater.
Doesn't even treat ours.
Yeah.
Right, it's all Madison, so.
All the same.
That's my personal opinion, but that's when you should put one of those underground wet vaults. and then pave over it for parking for San Damiano.
Ah.
Two birds with one
That
stone.
was done before these things came about.
Yeah.
But question, maybe this is a little weird, but we're talking about a 430 feet, 31 feet wide, going on that piece of land right there.
60 feet wide. Well, we have probably less than that because we have to relocate a sanitary sewer that runs the full length.
I thought I saw somewhere that is 31 feet wide. But where I was going with that is it's running from McKenna to Midmore. Couldn't you put it under a road?
No, you can't get the other infrastructure around it.
Yeah, well, not a road. They can build a stairway to the moon. They can move footpaths and pipes.
It starts to get really, really expensive to do it. You have to have separation distances between.
Oh, yeah, I suppose that's right.
There's probably 20 different companies that have fiber underground right now. You have gas mains, electric. I mean, the right of ways are pretty busy. We're lucky to only have to move one thing here.
I was just gonna say, we're lucky that water isn't here. If water was here looped somehow, we wouldn't have the separation distances with the underground storm.
What's on the other side of Midmore there? If you were to follow across there, is that?
A house.
There is a house there.
Yeah.
Yep, I guess there's a house there.
So you can see our main comes through here, and you can see the grass is a different color.
Oh.
There's a structure.
Very deep, huh?
This lady called me about this because they just got our construction letter and told me about the geyser that pops this manhole cover.
Oh, wow.
And it comes squirting out right here during heavy rain events.
We have several locations like that.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse with the intensity of the rain events.
Yeah.
The past few years. So much comes down at one time.
So.
Great questions, good discussion.
Yeah.
Any other?
You've got more, yeah, let's get more.
I'll wrap it up.
No, don't rush.
Just one final one, but it was more a comment really, that the street cleaning credit is there, but currently you're only doing it, approximately 3 to 4 times a year, right? Maybe every other.
Street sweeping?
Yeah.
No, we're out about every other week on Monona Drive and Broadway and every third week on the city. Spring.
No, it says weekly.
And then by beefing it up to weekly, it only gives you 0.5% additional.
Really?
We don't have parking
I'm a little
restrictions.
surprised by that.
We don't have parking restrictions. And with the parking restrictions, you get a significant boost in Windslam.
Right.
And that came from Bannerman's study that they did in his neighborhood.
Interesting. So if you eliminate street parking, you get better numbers?
Yeah. If you restrict it for street sweeping purposes.
Don't let that come to this committee.
No, that won't go over well.
No.
Can we take advantage of it by the high school where we eliminate parking and just say eliminate on this side also for street sweeping?
And we'll street sweep those streets 4 times a week, yeah.
Pick up all this Taco Bell.
Like that stormwater quality.
Yeah. But no, that is, I mean, actually, we did look at that. We looked at, okay, the cost of sweeping versus the gain of phosphorus and TSS reduction. And the cost far outweighs the little bit of improvement that you get, let's say, to go to 2 times a week everywhere, the whole city. Yeah, it's not there. Also not to mention, we just
Don't have
we don't have
manpower.
a second
Yeah.
truck.
And
a truck,
second street sweeper, depending on the type. I mean, what kind would you need?
Right.
Another.
But you need the vac with the room.
So that's about, in today's price, about $300,000. We bought the one we have for $240,000, I believe. But the price on that type of equipment has skyrocketed since COVID. So.
I'd make a motion to recommend the city council accept the plan.
I'll second that.
All right, any other questions or comments? Good discussion. There'll be much more. This is a topic that comes up frequently on this group. But as you can tell, there's lots of historical knowledge. Mine you too. To kind of talk through
If we had memories.
because there's a lot of things that have done and things that have been considered, and it's always good to have fresh ideas, and it's always good to know kind of where we've been and where we're going, so never be shy to kind of chime in. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. And we move on to 7, operations report.
Included in the packet, and it did include first quarter 2025 data in the packet as well. One item, not sure if you're aware of, but the residential street light conversion program to convert our streetlights to LED apparently is complete. Brad's submitting the grant fund reimbursement request. What is that, 51,000?
Yeah, it's around there, yeah, 51.
So we are planning to come forward with like a phase 2 request so we can start hitting some of our industrial areas, our commercial areas. We have not received any calls, positive, negative, regarding this conversion. Which is a good thing, because leading up to this, we did, here and there, the past few years, we have, if there was a problem with a streetlight, we just automatically converted it if they're gonna do maintenance on it anyway. And I think those were our test runs with dialing in the Kelvin type setting that we wanted. Brad specified shields on, I believe, all of these, which reduces glare into the front windows, so.
And glare upward.
And glare, yes, this is all
focused on.
Yep.
Dark
cut off.
sky stuff, yeah.
These are dark sky compliant.
So all the trials and tribulations and all the personal meetings Brad has had over the years with residents.
And you take credit for this too.
He fine-tuned this project, and, to not have any calls and to have the work been done for almost 3 or 4 weeks now, is pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
Anecdotally, I happened to look out my back window and noticed that the lights across the street look different. And I remember that you're doing that. I think it looks way better. So,
Yeah.
Good.
Really good job.
So we're working on phase 2, and hopefully we can bring something back in a capital budget this fall. So
awesome.
As far as the chip seal program, Farner had mentioned that at the end of May, they're gonna be in the city starting with crack sealing and spray patching, and usually within about 2 weeks after that, they follow up with the actual chip seal application, so probably middle of June. Have we sent resident letters for that already?
Not yet.
Okay, we have the letter drafted, ready to go out. Farner is required to do notification as well. Once mill and overlay is done, we'll get those letters out, once council passes it. So other than that, that's pretty much it for the update on the report. Did you want to wait with doing anything with well for the June committee discussion?
Yeah, we'll wait, we'll have a conversation. Something will come back at some point. Yeah. All right, we have a next scheduled meeting June 4th, and then we need a motion for adjournment.
I'll move.
I'll second. And there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you guys. Now remember, Leslie, I banked a lot of short meetings a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
This was like,
No, it's still not bad.